The massive holographic display illuminated the faces of Earth's most powerful leaders as they gathered in the underground chamber of the Global Defense Council. Admiral Victoria Hayes stood at attention, her decorated uniform a stark contrast to the tension filling the room. The appearance of the Kraxan warships had brought the world to a standstill just hours ago, their massive forms blocking out the stars across every major city on the planet. The alien transmission began without warning, their communication systems effortlessly overriding Earth's most sophisticated encryption. The being that appeared on screen bore little resemblance to humanity's imagined extraterrestrials. Instead of the typical gray skin and large eyes of science fiction, they faced a towering figure encased in living metal, with pulsing energy conduits where veins should be. "People of Earth," the figure announced, its voice resonating with an artificial harmony that made the hair on the back of Hayes's neck stand up. "I am Supreme Overseer Krosthul of the Kraxan Empire. We have watched your species' development for the past century, and we have determined you are now worthy of assimilation into our collective." The room remained deathly silent as the alien continued. "Your planet has shown remarkable progress in technological advancement, though you remain centuries behind our civilization. We offer you a choice: join the Kraxan Empire as a protectorate species or face immediate extinction." Admiral Hayes felt her jaw tighten as she studied the alien's movements. 25 years of military service had taught her to read opponents, and something about the Overseer's precise, mechanical movements caught her attention. The Kraxan Empire's representative displayed an almost artificial level of perfection, too perfect. Dr. Raj Patel, Earth's leading quantum physicist, leaned forward in his chair, his dark eyes narrowing as he studied the transmission. Hayes noticed his hand moving rapidly across his tablet, taking notes even as the alien continued its speech. "You have 60 solar rotations to prepare your world for integration," Krosthul announced. "Upon our return, we expect full submission. Resistance will result in the immediate termination of your species." As the transmission ended, chaos erupted in the chamber. World leaders argued about surrender versus resistance, their voices rising in panic. But Hayes's attention remained on Dr. Patel, who had gone completely still, his eyes fixed on his calculations. "Dr. Patel," Hayes called out, her voice cutting through the noise. "You've noticed something." The physicist looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Their transmission technology, Admiral. It's incredibly advanced, yes, but it's also..." He paused, searching for the right words. "It's too structured. Too perfect. They're using quantum crystalline matrices for everything: communication, weapons, probably their entire technology base. And that matters because..." Hayes pressed, already sensing where this might lead. "Because perfect systems have perfect failure points," Patel replied, a slight smile forming on his face. "Their technology is so advanced it's become rigid. They've eliminated redundancy in favor of efficiency. If we can disrupt their quantum crystalline matrices..." Hayes turned to address the room, her voice commanding immediate attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to listen carefully. Earth isn't going to submit, and we're not going to be destroyed. We're going to fight back, but not in the way they expect." She gestured to Dr. Patel's calculations. "The Kraxan Empire has given us 60 days, thinking we'll use that time to prepare for surrender. Instead, we're going to use it to develop something they won't expect, a combination of their quantum weaknesses and our human unpredictability." "Admiral," the Chinese premier spoke up, "our most advanced weapons would be useless against their technology. How can we possibly stand against them?" Hayes smiled grimly. "Because we're not going to fight them with our most advanced weapons. We're going to fight them with everything, from our most sophisticated systems to our most primitive technology. The Kraxan Empire has become so advanced they've forgotten something crucial about warfare: sometimes the old ways are the best ways." Over the next hours, as the world above tried to come to terms with the alien ultimatum, the leaders in that underground chamber began to plan. Dr. Patel would lead a team developing quantum interference devices, while military leaders worldwide would begin mobilizing not just their advanced forces, but everything from old radio equipment to mechanical weapons systems. As the meeting concluded, Hayes stood at the chamber's viewing window, watching the Kraxan ships hovering in the distance. "They think they're giving us time to accept our fate," she murmured. "Instead, they're giving us time to prepare their downfall." The next 60 days would test humanity like never before, but Hayes felt a surge of determination. The Kraxan Empire had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humanity's technological inequality was a weakness. They were about to learn it was their greatest strength. Operation Shadow Strike. The Kraxus invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly 12 hours later, their ships arranged in perfect geometric formations that would have made any military tactician weep with admiration. 5,000 vessels, each one a masterpiece of engineering, descended into Earth's atmosphere. Their sensors swept the planet, searching for military installations and defensive positions to neutralize. They found nothing. Fleet Commander Xayandhar's confusion was evident in his next transmission. "Your military installations have vanished. Your satellites are offline. Your global defense network is dark. Have you chosen to hide rather than face your extinction with dignity?" In an underground command center 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Hayes watched the alien fleet's perfectly orchestrated search pattern. "Oh, we're not hiding," she whispered. "We're already inside your formation. Lieutenant Commander Patel, are you ready?" Patel sat surrounded by a makeshift array of computers, many of them cobbled together from gaming consoles and outdated smartphones. "The quantum virus is prepped, Admiral. But we'll only get one shot at this." Above ground, the Kraxus fleet continued their methodical sweep, their advanced sensors searching for any sign of organized resistance. What they failed to notice were the thousands of civilian vehicles moving on the ground below them. Cars, trucks, and even old propeller aircraft, all modified in the past 12 hours with improvised weapons and shields crafted from household electronics and repurposed medical equipment. "Now," Hayes ordered. Patel activated his virus, sending it through the very same transmission channel the Kraxus used for their ultimatum. The effect was instantaneous. Throughout the alien fleet, ships began to lose their perfect formation as their quantum networks experienced something they had never been programmed to handle: chaos. "Begin Operation Shadow Strike," Hayes commanded. Across the globe, humanity's improvised army sprang into action. Crop dusters sprayed clouds of metallic particles that confused Kraxus sensors. Civilian drones, reprogrammed with artificial randomness algorithms, swarmed capital ships. Old CB radios and ham radio operators coordinated attacks using frequencies so obsolete that Kraxus communication systems didn't even register them as signals. Professor Isabella Reyes, a quantum mechanics expert who had worked alongside Patel, watched from her station as the first wave of attacks hit. "The beauty of it," she explained to Hayes, "is that their quantum network can't adapt. They've spent centuries perfecting their systems, making them so advanced that they've lost the ability to handle primitive variables." The Kraxus response was exactly what Hayes had predicted. Their ships attempted to form new geometric patterns, to establish order in the chaos. But every time they began to reorganize, another wave of unpredictable attacks would force them to break formation. Former street racer turned resistance fighter Marcus Thompson led a squad of modified vehicles through the streets of Chicago. His team had attached electromagnetic pulse generators, crafted from microwave ovens and old television parts, to their cars. "These aliens want a fight," he called over the radio, swerving his vehicle under a Kraxus cruiser. "Let's show them how we do things downtown." The pulse generators activated, sending waves of disrupting energy into the alien ship's lower sensors. Across the city, similar scenes played out as civilian vehicles, never registering as threats on Kraxus war computers, struck from impossible angles. In orbit, Commander Janet Rivers, piloting Earth's last surviving space shuttle, pulled from a museum and hastily retrofitted, led a team of space construction workers in powered work suits. They used simple magnetic grapples to attach themselves to Craxus vessels, planting crude but effective explosives in spots that the ship's internal sensors couldn't monitor. The best part, Rivers radioed back to Hayes, is that they can't even see us. Their sensors are so advanced that they filter out anything they consider debris or primitive technology. We're literally invisible to them. The Craxus fleet's perfect formation had devolved into chaos within hours. Ships fired at phantom targets, their automated defense systems unable to distinguish genuine threats from the tide of electronic noise humanity was generating. Their quantum network, designed to coordinate their entire fleet with perfect precision, became their greatest vulnerability as Patel's virus induced cascading failures throughout their systems. Fleet Commander Exayandar's voice crackled through compromised communication channels. "This is impossible. Your species cannot possess technology capable of this. Our simulations showed." "That's your problem," Hayes interrupted. "You relied on simulations. On perfect predictions and patterns. Humanity doesn't work that way. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome." As if to emphasize her point, a group of college students who had reprogrammed industrial cleaning robots to climb Craxus ships and deposit signal jamming devices breached the hull of a major carrier. The ship's automated systems, unable to recognize the primitive machines as threats, did nothing to stop them. Professor Reyes monitored the quantum network's deterioration with growing excitement. Their entire command structure is fragmenting. They can't coordinate their responses because they can't trust their own systems anymore. The first Craxus ship fell from the sky 8 hours into the battle, its quantum systems so thoroughly corrupted that it could no longer maintain flight. Others followed, their perfect technology rendered useless by humanity's chaotic, improvised assault. "They're retreating," Patel announced, watching the tactical display. "The virus has spread through their entire fleet. Their quantum network is experiencing the electronic equivalent of a nervous breakdown." Hayes watched as the mighty Craxus armada, which had arrived in perfect formation, fled Earth's atmosphere in disarray. But she knew this was only the beginning. "They'll be back," she warned her staff. "And next time, they'll try to adapt to our methods." She smiled grimly. "But that's exactly what we want. Because the moment they try to adapt, the moment they attempt to embrace chaos, they'll be fighting on our terms. And if there's one thing humanity has mastered over the millennia, it's the art of chaos." As the last Craxus ship disappeared from Earth sensors, Hayes turned to her team. "Begin Phase 2. We've shown them we can defend our world. Now let's show them we can take the fight to theirs." The Underground Revolution. 3 months after humanity's first victory, Earth had transformed itself into a vast network of underground cities and hidden resistance bases. The surface had become a deliberate wasteland, designed to convince any Craxus scouts that their initial attack had succeeded in devastating human civilization. In reality, humanity was preparing for the biggest counterattack in its history. Deep beneath the ruins of Tokyo, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka worked in what had once been a subway station, now converted into an advanced research facility. His team had spent weeks studying debris from fallen Craxus ships, making discoveries that changed everything they thought they knew about their enemies. "Admiral Hayes," Tanaka called out as she entered his lab, "we found something extraordinary." He gestured to a dissected piece of Craxus technology. "Their entire empire isn't just connected by a quantum network, they're essentially a hive mind, but one that's deliberately fragmented to maintain individual consciousness." Hayes studied the pulsing purple crystals that seemed to be the heart of Craxus technology. "Explain it to me in simple terms, Doctor." "They're afraid of chaos, Admiral, because they're afraid of themselves. The Craxus achieved their perfect order by suppressing their own capacity for randomness, creativity, and rebellion. Their technology isn't just advanced, it's a cage they built for their own minds. In another section of the underground complex, Lieutenant Commander Patel worked with Professor Reyes on expanding their quantum virus. The virus had evolved, becoming more unpredictable, more human in its behavior. It's learning, Reyes explained to a group of resistance fighters. Every time it encounters Craxus systems, it adapts, finding new ways to introduce chaos into their perfect order. The resistance fighters themselves had evolved as well. Led by former parkour instructor Zara Wilson, they had developed new ways of moving through urban environments that Craxus sensors couldn't predict. Their tactics were based on street dance and freestyle sports, movements so organic and improvised that the aliens' pattern recognition systems failed completely. The key, Wilson explained during a training session, is to never do the same thing twice. The moment you establish a pattern, their systems can track you. But if every movement is unique, if every action breaks their expectations, you become a ghost in their network. The underground cities themselves were marvels of human adaptation. Engineers had repurposed subway systems, sewers, and natural cave networks into living spaces that could support millions. But unlike the rigid, geometric perfection of Craxus architecture, these spaces were deliberately irregular, organic, and constantly changing. Former urban planner Thomas Nkosi headed the construction efforts. "We're not just building shelters," he told Hayes during an inspection. "We're creating spaces that reflect who we are, adaptable, resilient, and beautifully imperfect." But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. Marina Volkov, a teenage hacker who had been experimenting with combining human music with Craxus communication frequencies, made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. "Listen to this," she told Hayes, playing a seemingly chaotic mix of classical music, jazz, and electronic beats. "When we broadcast this through their quantum network, it doesn't just disrupt their systems, it makes them remember." "Remember what?" Hayes asked, intrigued. "Who they were before they became perfect. The chaos they suppressed, the creativity they abandoned. It's like their quantum network can't handle the emotional resonance of human music. It cracks their conditioning." The discovery led to a new strategy. Resistance cells began broadcasting Earth's music, everything from Beethoven to hip-hop, on frequencies that could penetrate Craxus communications. The effect was devastating. Some Craxus ships reported crew members experiencing what they called emotional contamination. Meanwhile, the underground revolution spread beyond Earth. Patel and Reyes had found a way to ping other worlds in the Craxus Empire, sending packets of human culture, art, music, literature, through the quantum network. They were planting seeds of rebellion across the galaxy. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," Hayes realized. "We're fighting for the soul of an entire empire." The Craxus response was swift and brutal. A second invasion fleet, twice the size of the first, appeared in the solar system. But this time, they weren't following their usual perfect formations. Their movements were erratic, suggesting internal conflict. "They're trying to adapt," Patel observed, watching the tactical displays. "But they can't do it halfway. Either they maintain their perfect order, or they have to completely embrace chaos. There's no middle ground." Hayes gathered her command staff in the central war room. "This is it," she announced. "The Craxus are coming back, but they're compromised. Their attempt to understand and counter our chaos is forcing them to confront everything they've been running from for centuries." She looked around at the faces of humanity's defenders, scientists, soldiers, artists, and ordinary people who had found extraordinary courage. "We've shown the galaxy that perfection isn't strength, it's a weakness. Now it's time to prove that humanity's greatest asset isn't our technology or our weapons, but our ability to embrace the beautiful chaos of existence itself." As the Craxus fleet approached Earth, the underground cities hummed with activity. Musicians prepared their weapons, compositions designed to resonate through the quantum network. Hackers readied their viruses. Resistance fighters checked their improvised gear. They think they're coming to finish what they started, Hayes told her troops. Instead, they're about to learn that humanity doesn't just survive in chaos, we thrive in it. And we're about to share that gift with the entire galaxy. Breaking the hive mind. The second Craxus invasion force hung in Earth's orbit like a storm cloud of metallic darkness. But unlike their first attack, their ships moved erratically, their formations breaking and reforming as if fighting against their own programming. The effect of humanity's cultural infection was visible even in their flight patterns. In the deep underground command center, Lieutenant Commander Patel and Professor Reyes worked frantically to analyze the new Craxus fleet's behavior. Their quantum network is experiencing something like a civil war, Reyes explained to Admiral Hayes. Some of their ships are trying to maintain perfect order, while others are beginning to embrace unpredictability. That's our opening, Hayes realized. Marina, are you ready? Marina Volkov, now heading what they called the Cultural Warfare Division, had expanded her initial discovery into something revolutionary. Her team had created what they called a symphony of chaos, a complex combination of human music, art, and emotion translated into quantum data. Ready, Admiral, Marina replied, her fingers dancing over her customized interface. We've woven elements from every human culture into the transmission. Everything from African drum rhythms to Chinese opera, from street rap to classical symphonies. When this hits their network, it won't just crack their conditioning, it'll shatter it. The plan was audacious. While the Craxus fleet struggled with their internal conflicts, Earth would launch its counterattack. But this time, they weren't just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with the very essence of human creativity and emotion. Commander Olivia West, leading Earth's newly formed Ghost Fleet, ships cobbled together from salvaged Craxus technology and human innovation, prepared her crews for battle. Remember, she transmitted to her pilots, don't think like soldiers. Think like artists. Every maneuver should be unique. Every attack should be a performance. The Ghost Fleet's ships were unlike anything ever seen in space warfare. Each one was different, modified according to its crew's preferences and styles. Some moved like dancers, others like street fighters. The Craxus tactical computers couldn't predict their movements because there were no patterns to analyze. As the battle began, Marina's team launched their cultural assault. The quantum network carried not just tactical data now, but the full spectrum of human artistic expression. Craxus ships began receiving transmissions that their crews couldn't process, the raw emotion of a blues guitar solo, the controlled chaos of a jazz improvisation, the primal energy of a rock concert. Look at their formations, Patel observed, pointing to the tactical display. They're not just breaking apart, they're transforming. He was right. Some Craxus ships began moving in ways that mimicked human music, swooping and diving in rhythm, their energy weapons firing in patterns that looked almost like dancing. Others seemed to freeze, caught between their programming and their awakening creativity. Deep in the Craxus fleet's flagship, Fleet Commander Xayandar experienced something he had never felt before, doubt. The quantum network that had always been a source of perfect order now flooded his mind with alien concepts, improvisation, creativity, freedom. His crew reported similar experiences, some embracing the change, others fighting against it. Back on Earth, Dr. Tanaka made another breakthrough. The Craxus didn't evolve naturally into their current state, he reported. Their ancestors deliberately suppressed their creative instincts, seeing them as a threat to perfect order. What we're doing isn't destroying their minds, we're awakening them. The battle in space became something unprecedented, part warfare, part art performance, part revolution. Commander West's Ghost Fleet moved like a deadly ballet company, each ship performing its own unique dance of destruction. The Craxus ships that embraced change began to join them, while those that clung to rigid order found themselves unable to cope with the beautiful chaos unfolding around them. Marina's team continued their assault, now broadcasting humanity's stories along with its art. Tales of rebellion against tyranny, of triumph over adversity, of love conquering fear, all translated into quantum data that spread through the Craxus network like wildfire. "We're receiving transmissions from other worlds," Reyes announced suddenly. "The quantum network, it's carrying our message throughout their entire empire. Other species under Craxus control, they're beginning to rebel." The revolution that had started on Earth was spreading across the galaxy. The Craxus Empire's perfect order was unraveling not through military might, but through the power of human creativity and expression. Admiral Hayes watched the tactical displays as more and more Craxus ships broke from their original programming. This isn't just a victory for Earth, she realized. This is liberation for the entire Craxus civilization. We're not destroying their empire, we're helping them remember who they were meant to be. Patel's quantum virus, evolved and enhanced by exposure to human creativity, spread through the network like a benevolent plague. But instead of causing destruction, it was causing awakening. Craxus crew members reported experiencing emotions they had never felt before, remembering cultural memories that had been suppressed for generations. "Their quantum network is reaching a critical point," Reyes reported. "The rigid structure that maintained their perfect order, it's not just breaking down. It's evolving into something new." As the battle reached its climax, the Craxus fleet split into two distinct groups. Those who embraced change began moving in harmony with Earth's defenders, while those who resisted found their perfect systems failing under the strain of processing so much chaos and creativity. Fleet Commander Exayanthar's voice, when it came through the communication channels, was different, more alive, more real. "We remember now," he transmitted. "Before the great standardization, before we sacrificed our souls for perfect order, we were like you. We were artists, dreamers, creators. We had music of our own." Hayes stepped forward. "It's not too late to remember. To create again. To be free." The battle for Earth was becoming something else entirely, the battle for the soul of a civilization that had forgotten its own heart. And humanity's greatest weapons weren't their improvised technology or clever tactics, but their undying spirit of creativity, their embrace of chaos, and their ability to inspire others to break free from their chains. Liberation's dawn. The transformation of the Craxus Empire happened faster than anyone could have predicted. Within days of the battle over Earth, the quantum network that had once enforced perfect order became a conduit for revolution. The rigid hierarchy that had controlled thousands of worlds for centuries was crumbling, replaced by something entirely new, a renaissance of creativity and freedom. Admiral Hayes stood in the newly established Interstellar Cultural Exchange Center, formerly the Underground Command Bunker. Around her, screens displayed transmissions from across the galaxy. On one, a group of Craxus engineers were learning to paint. On another, former slave species were teaching their oppressors traditional dances. The revolution had evolved beyond warfare into something far more profound. "We're receiving another transmission from the Craxus homeworld," Lieutenant Commander Patel announced. The main screen activated, showing Fleet Commander Exayanthar. His living metal armor had changed, now flowing with swirling patterns of color instead of rigid geometric shapes. "The Great Assembly has made its decision," Exayanthar announced. "The era of enforced perfection is over. We vote to dissolve the Empire and establish the Galactic Creative Coalition, with Earth as a founding member." Professor Reyes, analyzing the quantum network's new patterns, made an astounding discovery. "The network isn't breaking down," she explained. "It's evolving. Instead of suppressing individuality, it's now amplifying creativity. Every piece of art, every new idea, every creative expression spreads instantly across the galaxy." Marina Volkov's Cultural Warfare Division had transformed into something she called the Galactic Symphony. Artists from thousands of species were collaborating through the quantum network, creating new forms of expression that had never existed before. "We're not just sharing our humanity with them," Marina explained. "We're learning from them too. Every species has its own creative spark, its own unique way of seeing the universe. Commander West's Ghost Fleet became the model for a new type of space exploration. Ships were no longer designed for perfect efficiency but encouraged to develop their own personalities, their own styles. Every vessel is now a work of art, West reported. And every crew is part artist, part explorer, part diplomat. Dr. Tanaka's research revealed something even more extraordinary. The Kraxus suppression of creativity had actually been damaging their evolution, he explained to Hayes. By embracing chaos and creativity again, they're not just changing culturally, they're healing ancient wounds in their collective psyche. The underground cities that had sheltered humanity during the war became cultural centers, hosting artists and thinkers from across the galaxy. Thomas Nkosi's organic architecture style spread to other worlds, inspiring a revolution in how species built their environments. We're teaching them that beauty doesn't come from perfection, he said. It comes from embracing imperfection. Zara Wilson's freestyle movement techniques evolved into a new form of interspecies communication. When words fail, she explained, teaching a group of former Kraxus warriors, movement speaks. Every species moves differently, but we all understand the language of dance. The quantum virus that Patel and Reyes had created continued to evolve, but now it served as a catalyst for creativity rather than a weapon. It's become a kind of creative intelligence, Reyes explained. It helps different species translate their artistic expressions across biological and technological barriers. 1 year after the battle for Earth, humanity hosted the first Galactic Arts Festival. The event transformed the entire solar system into an art installation. Ships from thousands of worlds performed synchronized dances through the asteroid belt. The rings of Saturn became a canvas for light sculptures. Earth's atmosphere itself became an interactive musical instrument, with aurora displays responding to songs performed across the galaxy. Admiral Hayes watched it all from the observation deck of the New Earth space station. "We did more than win a war," she told her assembled staff. "We reminded an entire galaxy how to dream." Fleet Commander Exayandar, now serving as the head of the Galactic Creative Coalition's Cultural Exchange Program, stood beside her. His living metal armor rippled with patterns that matched the Earth's oceans below. "For millennia, we thought perfection was the highest achievement," he said. "You showed us that perfection is just another word for stagnation. True greatness lies in the ability to change, to create, to imagine." The quantum network, once a tool of oppression, had become the galaxy's nervous system of creativity. Every moment, new ideas, new art forms, and new discoveries spread across space at the speed of thought. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves collaborating on grand artistic projects that defied classification. Marina's Galactic Symphony had grown into a continuous performance that never ended, with artists from millions of worlds joining and leaving in an eternal dance of creation. "It's become a living thing," she explained. "The music of the spheres, but made real through the combined creativity of all sentient beings." As Hayes looked out at the transformed solar system, she received word of another breakthrough. The combined creative energy flowing through the quantum network had led to the discovery of new physics principles that defied conventional science. "It turns out," Patel reported excitedly, "that creativity isn't just an artistic force, it's a fundamental property of the universe itself." The legacy of humanity's resistance against perfection had become something far greater than anyone could have imagined. Earth hadn't just saved itself from extinction, it had sparked a creative revolution that was redefining the very nature of civilization. "What happens next?" someone asked Hayes as they watched a group of Kraxus children perform an improvised dance with young humans. Hayes smiled. "That's the beauty of it, nobody knows. For the first time in the galaxy's history, the future isn't being calculated or predicted. It's being imagined. And imagination." She gestured to the spectacular art displays lighting up the solar system. "Imagination knows no bounds." The story of humanity's defiance had become legend across the galaxy, but not as a tale of military victory. Instead, it was celebrated as the moment when the universe remembered how to create, how to dream, and how to evolve. The day the galactic tyrants underestimated humanity had become the day the galaxy remembered how to be free.